In a world where well-being takes center stage, we introduce a luminary figure and true pioneer in natural health and wellness, who has transformed countless lives with his natural health expertise and holistic approach. Introducing Aaron Warden, also known as the Juice Doctor. The Juice Doctor is an award-winning clinical nutritionist, natural health researcher, detox specialist, and functional health practitioner. He's a trailblazer, an innovator, and the producer of botanical health products. You may recognize him as the star of Channel 4 and Sky TV's Supersized Kids, where Aaron took a 26-stone teenager on an emotional roller coaster to transform his life and ultimately his weight. As a social entrepreneur, humanitarian, CEO, and founder of Vivo Nutrients, Go Detox, and MI Healthcare Group, the Juice Doctor is committed to providing natural health solutions that produce real results. His mission is simple: freedom through well-being. Join us for an extraordinary and insightful well-being experience as the Juice Doctor takes us through the award-winning wellness blueprint that has successfully helped thousands achieve natural weight loss, increased energy, amazing mental clarity, glowing skin, and overcome major health challenges without medication, bad diets, or stepping into a gym. The Juice Doctor's approach to wellness is revolutionary and cuts through uncertainty by thoroughly examining all aspects of your health and lifestyle. Once the root cause is identified, nature's finest organic ingredients are employed to create an inner environment conducive to accelerated well-being from within. Don't miss this life-changing opportunity to transform your life and inspire a new perspective on health. Bring your health-related questions and get organic recommendations and enhanced food-based solutions that will supercharge your health like never before. Book in for a non-invasive scan and consultation today and get ready for a transformative experience that will exceed your expectations. Your journey to holistic optimal wellness starts today. Make sure to follow the Juice Doctor on Instagram at ask.juicedoctor and on YouTube at askjuicedoctor.
Good evening and welcome to Ask Juice Doctor Live, our health Q&A this evening. Thank you so much for joining us today, whether you're logging on the live or you're logging into the YouTube, the replay. We are really grateful to have you here. We have a very packed webinar lined up for you. We've got some really powerful questions. We've got some questions that came in from last week. We also have some new questions coming in this week. So let's really make sure we take advantage of the facility and the resource. Utilize the chat as much as you can. Put as many questions in there as you can, and we'll try and make sure we do our best to get through them. But as I said, we have a very packed session lined up for you today. It's yours truly, the Juice Doctor, and I'm here to really service your needs to the best of my ability. Today it's all about you. It's all about empowering you with the knowledge, with the tools, with the expertise and the prowess that I've been blessed with as a clinical nutritionist to really share and empower people with the resources they need to attain freedom through well-being. So we're going to be covering some questions on different aspects of health, whether it's going to be from a male perspective, a female perspective, to do with your energy levels, your sleep, deprivation, your hair loss, your skin, your gut, pain, joint pains, back pain, knee pain, whatever kind of maladies you're experiencing. This is your opportunity to get those questions answered and get some results and get some information or remedies that are going to actually produce results. That's what we specialize in, producing results. Thank you to all those that joined last week, and thank you to all those that have shared the replay. If you're watching this one for the first time as well, please make sure you sign into our YouTube channel or subscribe to our channel, so anytime we release a new video with some new information, you will also automatically get a notification. If you have not already hit the like button, make sure you click the like button and hit a comment or make a comment, because every time you make a comment, it tells the algorithm that people are engaging with the content and it encourages YouTube to share it more. So we really want to get this information far and wide, so the more people that interact with it through your likes, your comments, and your subscriptions is the more people it actually gets to reach out to. So Thank you once again to those that have shared the link. We have a new link each week because of the platform we use. We don't have any of those strange interruptions where people come in and they do all sorts of weird and wonderful things, as people tend to do on Zoom. So we tend to shy away from Zoom a little bit when we are having these kind of serious conversations and engagements. So welcome to all those that have joined. Thank you so much those that have taken up the opportunity at short notice as well. So I know some of you only got the link today. I'm going to quickly have a look through the chat. I can see some questions coming in already. Yeah, keep them coming in, please. Please keep them coming in, keep them coming. Yeah, I've got quite a few in there. So what I will do, I'm going to start with the ones I had from last week, and then we're going to jump into the new ones for this week. Before we do that, I always like to start with a few fun facts or just some interesting information or statistics that are happening in the world of health, just to really increase your knowledge and your awareness, just in case you haven't seen what's actually been taking place. But there have been quite a few shifts in trends, in health trends, why we really need to take advantage of these type of resources to make sure we're empowered with the knowledge and tools to make sure that we don't get caught up in these types of statistics. I'm not sure if you're aware, there's been a massive rise in the early onset of cancers between 2020 and now. There's been a huge increase year on, year off, where there has been an increase in the number of cancers cases being diagnosed, and in particular with individuals under the age of 50. So the people that are being diagnosed with cancer is now starting to get younger and younger. And the cases are a little bit higher in women than men. And one of the other statistics I've really paid attention to or noticed is that we're starting to see a lot more endometrial cancers. Now, this is partly due to lifestyle, partly due to diet, and a lot of it to do with the levels of stress that people are subjecting themselves to. But one of the things that I've noticed in particular through the scans and, having different clients coming in with different reproductive issues, especially females and younger females, is that because they're having a higher level of exposure to wheat and pasta and rice and bread, their exposure to things like pesticides is very, very greatly increased. And these pesticides, they are what they call endocrine disruptors. These endocrine disruptors, they're actually serious harmful chemicals that actually interfere with the normal hormonal homeostasis or the hormonal balance of your body, and particularly your reproductive system, because they spray these chemicals and these pesticides on the crops, on the wheat, on the corn, on the different cereals that you may be ingesting, as a means of preventing the bugs that are terrorizing those crops from reproducing and destroying their harvest the following season. So they use these chemicals and pesticides that interfere with the bugs' ability to reproduce themselves. When the bugs can't reproduce themselves, their intention is that they're not able to damage the foods. You ingest these same chemicals and these same organisms start to take effect on the human frame, and they start to impact your hormones. So we start to find a lot of women, especially younger women, coming in with imbalances in their hormones. They start to develop uterine fibroids, they start to develop ovarian cysts, and younger women are having lots of endometriosis, incidences of painful periods and painful menses. And this is as a result of the imbalances or the interference with the normal flow of their hormones or the endocrine system. So if you are a person that eats a lot of wheat-based products, cereals, bread, pasta, processed foods as well, you are putting yourself at a much greater risk of developing some of these reproductive issues. So try and cut down on some of those foods so that you don't become a part of this rising statistic. Another big statistic that's been coming up is that antibiotic resistance is really starting to take its toll on those that are dependent on antibiotics when they contract an infection. Around 1.27 million deaths are reported annually attributed directly to antibiotic-resistant infections, making it one of the top causes of death worldwide. So these bugs are becoming more stronger, they're becoming more resilient, they're starting to mutate, and because you've already had antibiotics maybe once or twice, your body's ability to respond or to utilize the effectiveness of the antibiotics is becoming weaker and weaker. So 1.27 million deaths annually are attributed to antibiotic-resistant infection. That means these bugs are now becoming superbugs. Bugs are really getting strength. They're getting stronger and stronger, and it's becoming harder and harder to fight them. So there's only a limited amount of resources that the conventional methods are using, which is antibiotics, to try and contain that, and it's not having the desired effect. So people's immunity is actually being compromised, or more importantly, their gut microbiome or their gut flora is being damaged and leaving them more at greater risk. So if you don't understand what that means, if you've had one or maybe two courses of antibiotics across your lifetime, those antibiotics would have come into your gut and they would have left an imbalance in your gut flora because they would have damaged a lot of your good bacteria. If you haven't replenished those good bacteria, that would have left your gut vulnerable to a higher insurgence of bad bacteria, which will then colonize your gut, and that will put a huge burden on your immune system, leaving you a lot more vulnerable to infection. When you do contract any type of infection, even something simple as a cold or any kind of skin infection or even certain strains of flu, you may naturally go for some antibiotics, which would be another course of antibiotics that's going to come and make an even already imbalanced microbiome or imbalanced gut flora even weaker, which leaves you even more susceptible. So the cycle continues. So the more you rely on antibiotics is the more you place yourself at risk. But just being aware that one course of antibiotics, just one, can actually wreck your microbiome for life. Your microbiome is like the balance of all of your microbes, like your parasites, your viruses, your fungus, your bacteria, which makes up the ecosystem of the body. But you need them because a lot of them are symbiotic to the health of your body, and they're responsible for a lot of the functions that your body performs. And the last good statistic for this part of today's segment is I wanted to talk a little bit about sleep deprivation. Now, sleep deprivation affects approximately 1 in 3 adults worldwide. Now, people don't realize the importance of you having that really deep, restful, rejuvenative sleep. But when you don't get it, and you don't get it for a consistent period of time, it starts to take its toll on your overall health. I remember I had a gentleman come in. He had some really bad shakes. He was only about 55. He said he was a DJ. So he does some DJing, I think, on a weekday or Thursday night. And he said he had these really bad tremors, that his hand was trembling when he's writing. He couldn't write properly. When he was trying to speak, his speech was quite slurred. When he would walk, his gait was a little bit off kilter. So all these little things were starting to, really affect his quality of life. So we came in for a scan and consultation, and we did his scan, and we identified a lot of imbalances within his body, which we corrected as part of his detox and lifestyle change program. And 6 weeks later, he was completely transformed. It was almost like night and day. He had no more tremors. His were flowing from his mouth very, very freely. He was walking normally. His balance was back on track. Everything was synchronized and harmonized once again. But then 6 months later, he came back for a rescan. And to my amazement and shock, he said all of his symptoms had returned. And I said, that is not possible. Not possible. We've never seen that before. If someone comes to one of our programs and they do their detox, they make the lifestyle changes, they correct the imbalances, they put order back where there's disorder, that's it. The body takes over, because the body is designed to heal itself. As long as they're maintaining the right diet, the right levels of vitamins, nutrients, etc., the body will then maintain that level of homeostasis. But he said all his symptoms had come back. So I then, just as a throwaway question, I said, well, what time do you go to your bed? Because I said, let's move away from the biological investigation. Let's start going to his more social, because let's look at his lifestyle. And I asked him, what time do you go to bed? He said, about 4 o'clock. I said, 4 o'clock when? In the morning or after? He said, in the morning. I said, how long have you been doing that? He said, I've been doing it all my life. I said, all of your life? So I said, what about when you were on the program? He said, when I was on the program, he was going to bed at the time I told him to go to bed, which was 10 o'clock. So I then realized very quickly that this guy didn't need any type of supplementation, didn't need any kind of medication. He didn't need any type of program or detox. He simply needed to sleep. The reason why all his symptoms had come back after 6 months is because he'd gone back to his old habits of going to bed at 4 a.m. in the morning, which I had no idea he was doing. During the time he was on the program, he was going to bed at the right time of 10 p.m., maybe 10:30 the latest, and doing all the products and doing what he needed to do, and his body came back into order. But immediately he finished the program, he slipped back into his old habits of sleep deprivation, and all of those symptoms came back. So that was a classic and a big eye-opener for me to recognize the power and the importance of having the right amounts of sleep. So let's make sure that we try and prioritize our sleep and recognize the impact it has on our health, impact it has on our brain, impact it has on our eyes, impact it has on our joints. All of these areas are affected, and in particular your nervous system. So let's make sure we prioritize sleep as something that's very important. Okay, so let's jump into some of the questions. Got quite a few. In fact, what I'm going to start with the one that somebody asked. There was a couple somebody asked last week that I kind of went off on a bit of a tangent, so I want to make sure I address that one first. I think this one came from Norma, and Norma was asking, what are your views on sinus bradycardia? Now, sinus bradycardia is a condition where the heart is actually not beating at the right level. It's actually beating quite slowly, a little bit, similar to low blood pressure. They don't really see it as a major threat. It's not really a major condition, but it can, in the extremes, cause you to have lightheadedness or dizziness, as opposed to tachycardia, where your heart is beating too fast, or arrhythmia, where you have an irregular heartbeat. But sinus bradycardia is actually a condition where you haven't got enough electricity supplying the heart with the power it needs to pump and beat at the right speed. So when you have sinus bradycardia, one of the things you've got to recognize is that your body is not providing enough fire, enough heat, enough energy to the heart. So how do you increase the levels of energy to your heart? Firstly, you've got to look at the supply of electricity. I don't know if you're aware that the body is actually electric. Our body does actually run on electricity, and it has its own circuit system that runs through it. And how these cells or electrons are traveling, it's through a system called electrolytes. Hormones are another part of the electricity of the body, but let's just keep it simple for today's answer, where your electrolytes are things like your calcium, your magnesium, your phosphorus, your potassium. These are all electrolytes that are responsible for carrying the signals and carrying the electric charge to your cells. So if you're low in your heartbeat is not getting enough power to give it the right amount of beats, then you first may want to look at your supply of electrolytes, making sure you have the right amount of potassium, because that's going to bring down your sodium. If you have too much salt, make sure you have the right amount of calcium. These are all really important minerals that help to supply good flow of steady electricity to the heart. You also want to look at things like your collagen levels, because the collagen is a very important protein that really holds and supports the heart function and keeps the heart working, keeps the vessels very elasticated, and keeps them nice and flexible. And it also helps your arteries. So if you haven't got enough supply of power going to your heart, you might want to look at your levels of collagen. So when you're looking at your electrolytes, you want to increase things like your coconut water. Coconut water is a very good source of electrolytes because it has all of them in the perfect balance. You may want to double it up with maybe some celery. These are all natural foods that are quite rich in the electrolytes and the minerals that you need to support a healthy heart function. But then when you also look at your collagen, we have a product called the Elixir of Life that's a really powerful collagen promoter, because it's a very silica-based product that really promotes the body's natural production of collagen. So when you have that in your system, it really strengthens the heart matrix, the structure of the heart, and the muscles that actually cause the heart to pump. So if you're having a problem with sinus bradycardia, it's not a major thing to worry about, but it's good to make sure that you have the right amount of electrolytes in your body to make sure you can feed that supply, that electric supply, to keep things ticking over. Okay, so that was, I think, Norma's question. Another question that we had last week, in fact, it came in this week actually. What does it mean if you bruise really easily? Now, bruising, especially when you bruise easily, it's a very big telltale sign that you've got a disorder in your blood, or you've got some level of imbalance within your blood. Now, the blood relies on a good supply of nutrients, vitamins, minerals, etc., to ensure that you have the right amount of hemoglobin, that you get the right amount of healthy red blood cells, you've got a good supply of white blood cells if there's an emergency. But if you're really struggling with minerals, micronutrients, and things like iron, having low levels of iron is going to have an impact on your levels of hemoglobin, healthy red blood cells, and this could also contribute to you having easy bruising. You may also look at if you're not producing the right amount of platelets. If your blood is not able to produce platelets, this is also going to be a sign that you may be low in vitamin K or K2. I know everyone talks about vitamin D3, but K2 is a very powerful micronutrient on its own. So just by having the right amounts of K2, it could help to increase your blood's ability to coagulate and to produce platelets. So that will stop you from experiencing bruising. So I think Aremi asked that question. So hopefully, Aremi, if you haven't already booked yourself for a scan, it would be good for you to come and have a scan so we can really get to the root of what may be contributing to your bruising situation, because it could be that you're lacking iron, it could be that you have too many heavy metals which are preventing the iron from being absorbed, because iron deficiency or anemia doesn't always necessarily mean you haven't got enough iron. It may mean you have enough iron, but it's just not being absorbed. Maybe other metals are taking its place, but there's a competition or they're competing to be absorbed by the blood. So if you have too much high levels of lead, maybe you have too much turmeric or foods that are coming from maybe a polluted source, then that may also contribute to you having high levels of lead and reducing your absorption of iron. Also your K2, your potassium as well, these all have an impact on your blood's ability to produce clotting and keep your blood vessels nice and healthy. So yeah, book yourself for a scan, I would say, and recommend. That way we can really get to the root and identify what imbalances there are, if it is an imbalanced situation. But bruising is definitely a sign that there's a disorder of some sort happening within your blood. Okay, so let's move into some more questions from this week. So I want to really try and get through as many of them as we can. So please, if you haven't asked a question already, please do ask those questions, get those typed in, and I'll try and whiz through them as quickly as I can. Okay, so let me go from the top. Yeah, I remember I've dealt with that one yet, dealt with that one. Bruise too easily. Okay, Dory's asking, how long can I take Oxyflush before I take a break? Okay, Oxyflush is a fantastic product for removing or helping the body to remove toxins from the colon in particular. Now, the colon is a really central part of your body's immune defenses, because over 80% of your immune system is actually situated in the colon. So where you have any kind of digestive imbalance, or you have any kind of or lack of resources, not enough enzymes or not enough probiotics, or you've had antibiotics and it left your gut flora vulnerable or imbalanced, then you may have a lack of available bacteria to help to break down your food. So that means your food or your waste material will start to accumulate, and that will start to cause blockage in your bowels, which could then start to overload the liver, which could then start to manifest in skin spots or liver spots on your skin. It may start to manifest as rashes. It may start to manifest as back pain, because the back passages start to become blocked or clogged up. So there's lots of different situations that could develop just as a result of your waste not being eliminated properly. So by you taking Oxyflush really helps you to push that waste through. It helps to first break it down, uses oxygen to break it down, to turn it into liquid, and then it just comes out as a nice, gentle, watery stool. People love Oxyflush. They love talking about their Oxyflush stories, or they call it the Exodus, when they feel it's kicking in and everything starts coming out. It's just, and it's very gentle. It's very, very painless. So people start to take it and they love taking it. So the question is, how long do you take Oxyflush before you take a break? We generally recommend to take it for a maximum of 5 days. Take it for 5 days. If you want to get a really deep cleanse, a really good cleanse, a really effective cleanse, take it for 5 days. That's enough to break down any kind of accumulated fecal matter that's built up there, maybe a considerable period of time. Take it for 5 days and then have a break for 2 days. Have a break for 2 days, after which you can resume if you want to do another 5 days or do 3 days. Then after you've done a couple of sessions of 5 days, then you can maybe bring it down to maybe once or twice a week, just to make sure it keeps you regular. But you don't want to become dependent on it. You're going to make sure you give your bowels a chance to breathe, and make sure the peristalsis, which is like the muscles where they open and contract, that peristalsis process is able to function by itself. But the Oxyflush really helps to remove that waste and to kind of tonify your peristalsis or your bowel muscles to make sure that they're working more effectively. Thank you so much for that question, Gary. Okay, so can I give Oxyflush to children? Very good question. Yes, you can. Obviously, at a reduced dose. We say start up with a half a teaspoon. You can give it to them, especially children that have a lot of sweets, that maybe tend to have a little bit more on the large side, maybe a little bit more obese, and then maybe have a little bit overindulgence in the foods of the sweet profile. If you want to reduce the cravings, I would recommend to use Elixir of Life, because that's a really, really good collagen builder, but it also helps to kill off the parasites and bring down the parasite load and cut down the cravings, so they don't have that cravings for the food in the first place. And then when you cut down their desire for those sweet foods or those bad foods or those processed foods, you can then go in with the OxyFlush and help to remove a lot of the accumulated waste that's built up. And it also helps to boost their immune system, because the immune system is going to be busy trying to attend to those microbes or those toxins that have been produced as a result of that waste that's not been eliminated. So once those immune cells are freed up, they can then go to attend to other maladies elsewhere in the body, especially if now we're getting into the cold season or the flu season. If you do get flu, the first thing you want to do is clean your colon, because that's where most of your immune cells are probably kept busy by waste or harmful materials that shouldn't be there. So yeah, definitely give it to children, but make sure you monitor their bowel movements no more than once or twice a week when it comes to children. Okay, Olivia. Sylvia, do you have any sessions on low and irregular blood pressure? Oh, very interesting question. When you have low and irregular blood pressure, again, we were speaking earlier about the sinus bradycardia. When you have low blood pressure, again, there's things that you can do, such as maybe increase your salt levels, because sodium is one of the things that increases blood pressure. That's why when they say people have high blood pressure, the first thing I always tell them is to reduce your salt. Reducing your salt is going to bring your blood pressure down. If you want to increase your blood pressure, increase your sodium, because sodium, again, is one of the electrolytes, which helps to carry those signals, those electric signals, to the heart, to the muscles that control the function of your blood pressure. By having a little bit more sodium, this could help to elevate your blood pressure a little if you're too low, but also having potassium, because the potassium will help to balance out and to modulate the levels of sodium to make sure it doesn't get too much or become excessive, to the point where you've gone from one extreme to the other, from having low blood pressure into having high blood pressure. So again, it comes down to having the right level of minerals within your body and available to your gut for them to distribute them as according to how they need it. So when you have low or irregular blood pressure, you want to first look at your mineral intake, make sure you've got right levels of sodium, right levels of potassium. Then you also want to look at your levels of stress. How are you managing your stress? What are you doing that's trying to helping you to offset your levels of stress? Because if your blood pressure is irregular, that means it's going up as well as going down. So there may be some things that are happening in your life that's affecting your adrenal function or your adrenal glands, that's causing you to go into that state of severe alertness, where something's really got you on tenterhooks, to then going to the other extreme. So you might want to look at how you managing your stress. Maybe it's time you had a holiday. Maybe it's time you had some time away from whatever situation you're faced with on a regular basis, just to give yourself a little bit of a break and give your blood pressure some time to balance itself out. Okay, let's go down. Hyacinth. Recently diagnosed with diabetes. How do I reverse my type 2 diabetes? So sorry to hear about that diagnosis, Hyacinth. But the good news is type 2 diabetes is very, very reversible. It's a lifestyle condition. It's a metabolic disorder, which means you have some quite pronounced metabolic disorders that have been in position for maybe quite some time. Now, there are certain key markers that we look at that we've noticed over the years that people that have diabetes, in particular type 2 diabetes, always seem to have in position. The first one, their colon is quite blocked. That means their bowel movements is quite irregular. So there's a buildup of waste, which can affect their metabolism. Secondly, we notice that they have an imbalance in their gut flora. They have a low level of bacteria, which is again going to contribute to the body's ability to digest and break down their food. If you haven't got the right amount of microbes or the right amount of bacteria, you're not going to be able to break down your food properly, and your signaling process is going to be interfered with as well. Number three, we notice that people that have type 2 diabetes always, well, at least 90% of the time, have a deficiency in their B vitamins. B vitamins are responsible for your metabolism. They play a number of roles in the digestive process, but let's just really kind of drill down and keep it simple so you can take away some action steps. B1, vitamin B1 is renowned for its impact on type 2 diabetes, because B1, or thiamine, thiamine is responsible for metabolizing carbohydrates. If you have a deficiency in vitamin B1, you're also going to be at a very high risk of developing type 2 diabetes, because remember, type 2 diabetes is linked to your body's ability to convert the carbohydrates into glucose, which the body will then utilize as energy, but it has to go into the cells in order for that to take place. And that's when it requires a level of insulin. So number 4 is you want to make sure you have the right amount of enzymes, digestive enzymes. Enzymes are what the pancreas produces. Now, they talk about these organs and they probably talk about them, and they may not really make sense to you because it's just like organs that are linked to diabetes, but they actually have a very important role to play in digestion. Your pancreas it has a dual role. Number 1 role is it's there to produce insulin to regulate your blood sugar. It's also responsible for producing enzymes, digestive enzymes here to break down your food. So it's an exocrine organ as well as an endocrine organ. So it's part of your endocrine system, which deals with your hormones. It's also part of your exocrine system, which deals with the digestive system. So those 4 areas are always out of sync. Once you start to look at lifestyle changes that you can do that can help to bring those areas back into range, things like doing more exercise, that means you're utilizing the energy that's being produced, having more raw food or food that's more wholesome. So food that has the enzymes intact. When I say food that has enzymes intact, as soon as you cook, fry, bake, steam, boil, or grill food, you kill all the enzymes. It makes it a lot harder for the body to break it down. So when you have foods that have a lot more raw elements involved, things like your salads, your greens, it really makes it a lot easier for your body to digest that food and not have to rely on the pancreas having to produce so many enzymes, because the food has its own levels of enzymes that could assist its digestive process by itself. This is why they recommend you following a Mediterranean diet. Mediterranean diet has lots of olive oil, it has lots of olives, has lots of fresh foods, along with little bits of grilled food. Not a lot of fried food, but a lot of grilled food. Most people that observe a Mediterranean diet have been very effective at addressing their type 2 diabetes. So if you've been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, there's a few things that you can do that I just recommended there, looking at your enzyme, looking at your B vitamin profile, looking at your bowel movements, how your bowels are functioning, looking at your microbe, your bacteria levels, your gut flora, looking at some probiotics, etc. So there's lots of things that you can do, but the best way to get diabetes under control is when you do them all together. And this is why sometimes it's good to have a coach, or good to get a check, or so you can kind of find out which level of these are out and how far out they are, and what exactly is required for you to bring them back into range. I hope that's answered your question, Hyacinth. And if you do want to book a scan, then please, by all means, get in touch with us and we'll see how we can get you booked in to get that put under control. We've had a lot of success with dealing with people who have type 2 diabetes. Okay, so that's that. Dolores Aneta. Okay, I did my blood pressure yesterday and it was 100/65. Is this something I should be worried about, or is it normal? If you're not taking medication for your blood pressure, that's the first thing to be happy about. The one thing when you're dealing with blood pressure is not to have or add things to your regime that's going to cause you to have more worry, because worry is always going to lead to stress. And when you have high levels of stress, it's going to push up your cortisol levels, which is going to have an effect on your adrenals, which is going to invariably push your blood pressure up. So the first thing we're going to do is try to cut down on worrying or adding things to worry about. 100/65 is a little bit high, a little bit out, but it depends on what's happening in your life at the time. Sometimes you need your blood pressure a little bit elevated, because sometimes if you have a high level of demand on your body, you may need a high level of supply of blood to your organs, to your brain, to your arms, to your hands. So you may sometimes need your blood pressure to be a little bit higher. If you're having a more sedentary sort of lifestyle and you're having a high diastolic, high systolic, then you may want to look at, how is my blood pressure so high while I'm not actually having or placing any demands on my system. So what I would do is monitor it over a period of, say, 7 days, make a note of the readings for each day, and then when you compare it, you may find that was just an abnormal day, maybe an off day, and other days it will be more in the range of, say, between 120/80 or 130 they allow over 85. So monitor it for now, and let's talk about the one thing I would say not to do is to worry. Don't find things to worry about. There's enough things in life for you to worry about without you adding your own health as another stressor. Okay, we've got quite a few questions. Please keep the questions coming in. It's really, really good. I'm really enjoying the fact that questions are coming in thick and fast. Hi, Dr. Aaron. Thank you for your continued informative chats. Oh, sorry, it's not a question. Thank you so much, Marshall. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate having you here. So I know I'm not speaking to myself. Right, Shirley. Okay. Why do people get palpitations? I understand if you have an autoimmune issue, you can get it, such as thyroid, and what can be done to prevent them? It's another very good question, Shirley. Well, firstly, people get palpitations for a number of different reasons. One of the reasons they get palpitations is sometimes if their heart pump is low. Why would your heart pump be low? We mentioned it earlier when we talked about bradycardia, where you haven't got enough electricity supply to that pump, because the heart is actually a pump. So it relies on a good source of nutrients, it relies on a good source of energy, and it relies on a good amount of electricity. So if you haven't got the right amount of electrolytes with a constant supply to the heart, that could impact your heart fluctuating and or going higher or lower, or giving you palpitations where your heart starts to beat a little bit faster than it should, because the pump may be struggling to pump the blood around the body. Another reason where you may have palpitations is if you're having an interruption to the flow of blood to the heart. What causes interruption to the flow of blood to the heart? If you start to develop atherosclerosis or arterial plaque, which is when you start to have fatty deposits building up in your arteries, which will cause your arteries to start narrowing. As I said, I think I mentioned this last week, when you have that plate of food, you may have a big plate of meat, big steak, and when you finish that plate, you see the greasy film on the plate. And when that greasy film on the plate goes hard, you have to use hot water and whatnot liquid to break it down and to put the plate through its paces. In the body, unfortunately, you don't have the benefit of hot water and whatnot liquid. If those greasy deposits start to form, that film will start to form. It will start to form a layer of plaque on the arterial wall, and that will stay there until you bring in the right type of foods or another type of expellent to be able to break it down and bring it out. If that situation continues for an extended period of time, your supply of blood to the heart may be impeded because the arteries are becoming narrow. And when it starts to become narrow because you've got so much high levels of plaque, that's going to increase your levels of cholesterol. Cholesterol is almost like the body's first aid. They're going to try and get to that point and find out why we've got so much blockage here, and they'll start to try and work to break it down. When you start to have that elevated levels of cholesterol and you have high levels of atherosclerosis or high levels of arterial plaque, that's going to affect your heart's ability to beat and function. Autoimmune is not always the cause. Autoimmune is normally linked to having leaky gut and having too many impurities in your blood that shouldn't be there, which will trigger the immune system to automatically react and try to attack healthy tissues. So that's not always the underlying or contributing factor, but the most underlying contributing factor to palpitations is A, having a low supply of electricity, or B, having a problem with the actual pump itself, the electric supply to the pump, or again, as we mentioned earlier, having the right levels of collagen, because collagen really helps to strengthen the heart. As I mentioned earlier, I had a client who was about 89 up in Yorkshire, and he was meant to have a triple bypass for his heart because he had a really bad case of heart disease. And he took Elixir of Life along with some omega-3s and omega-6 for about 6 months. And he went for the operation or the pre-operation assessment, and the doctors were astounded because they said, you no longer need to have a triple heart bypass. You just need to have a stent. They were quite shocked that his heart condition had actually improved. How did it improve? Because he made sure he had a constant supply of Elixir of Life, which helped the body to produce its own natural collagen. And I remember he also was taking some omega-3s, which are really powerful for removing and breaking down plaque in the arteries. So there's lots of things that you can do naturally to bring the heart back into order. I hope that answers that question for you, Shirley. Okay, let's get some more questions down here. Okay, so Marsha, what causes hemorrhoids? Do you have a product to aid such problems? Another very good question, Marsha. Now, hemorrhoids is something that we're starting to see again on a more consistent basis. People are starting to develop hemorrhoids because of their diet. when they're starting to have high levels of processed foods. They say sometimes sitting on a cold wall. Yes, there is some element, some truth in that, but it's more to do with what's happening internally. But externally, it does sometimes have an impact as well. But generally, when you have hemorrhoids, there's always going to be some kind of history of blockage where your bowels have not been able to eliminate the waste properly, maybe because of lack of fiber, maybe because of having high levels of processed food, maybe because having not enough water in your diet. We had a client just recently, actually, he had a really, really bad case of hemorrhoids, and he'd had it for like probably about the best part of 12 or 15 years. And we put him on a program, a very gentle program of just, lifestyle change and doing green juices. The reason why we put him on green juices is because we wanted to get him into the habit of putting nutrients back into his body. The reason why we wanted to get the nutrients back into his body because we wanted to repair the colon and repair the damage that had been done over the years as a result of his very, very bad choices, dietary choices. He had a very high level of ingestion of fried food, cafe food, because he works on construction site. So they have that big greasy spoon breakfast every morning, and because he had that consistently for many, many years, it started to take its toll on the condition of his gut, and more importantly, his stomach lining. So when we deal with people that have hemorrhoids, the first thing we do is that we look at their diet, we look at their lifestyle, and we help them to make those lifestyle changes that are going to support healing and long-term wellness. So in terms of a product, we don't have a product, but we have a combination of products that we use that help to bring those hemorrhoids back into order. And he's doing really well now. I mean, hasn't got his bum was always leaking. He said, and he used to always have to wear a nappy as a grown man of 45 years old. But now he said he hasn't got any of that issue anymore. And he's able to have regular bowel movements with no issues. The hemorrhoids are starting to go down because they're growths. They build up, like fluids start to build up in them, and it really becomes uncomfortable. But once you start to change the environment internally, using food, using nutrition, using your diet, using your lifestyle, then you find that the body, which is designed to heal itself, will naturally kick in and do what it's designed to do best. Thank you very much for asking that question, Master. Do you sell omega-3 product? Yes, we have a very high quality omega-3, which has omega-3 and omega-6 in a very good balance. Also has your EPA and your DPA. Now these you can't stress how important having a good balance of omega-3 and omega-6 oils are. I had a young lad, a father bought his son in quite distress. He was quite distressed yesterday. He bought his son just yesterday. And we did a scan and we looked at his essential fatty acids and his omega-3s. And he had one of them that was very low called arachidonic acid, one of the fatty acids. And it's actually an omega-6 acid. And when I pulled it up, I was like, wow, this young lad, he was only 8 years old, but he had a really bad case of eczema, a bad case of asthma, and some other skin conditions that he wasn't really handling or managing very well. He was also quite weak, he had lots of aches and pains. But this one fatty acid, this one omega-6, when you looked at what it does, could be identified as very low, and he had a high imbalance of that one omega-6. When you look at what it does, it impacts his respiratory system, it impacts his nervous system, so the brain function. It also has significant impacts on healing the skin or preventing rash and scaly skin from developing. Just that one micronutrient, that one ingredient was able to address so many maladies within that 8-year-old child. So I said to Dad, you need to start with getting him some omega-3, omega-6, and just really getting maybe some fish oils or foods that are rich in those compounds so that his body as an 8-year-old child will be able to utilize them and bring about some very, 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 very rapid healing. So we have a very good omega-3, omega-6 in a very good balance. Let's see if I can find it for you. And I'll share it and you see where you can pick it up from. You can get it from our website anyway. Our website is at, here we go. You can get it here, www.vivonutrients.com. You can go in there and just type in the search bar for omega-3s or omegas, EPA, DHA, and you will see the very good quality one that we have in there. So now I have to get back to these questions. get the next one up. There's a lot of questions coming, so thank you so much for keeping them coming. We've got about another 12 minutes, so I'm going to try and whiz through as many as we can. Okay, so I'll move that one. Okay, so what's that one? Okay, thank you for the diabetes solutions. You're most welcome, Hyacinth. You know, we're always here to support you. Yet we do what causes hemorrhoids. That. This is educative. Thank you so much, Lanray. This is educative. Okay, Shirley says, I notice if I don't get sufficient sleep, it triggers palpitations. Yes, sleep is one of the biggest contributors to repairing a weakened heart. Because if your heart doesn't get the right amount of rest, it's not going to get the right amount of nutrients to do that or perform that effective repair or that essential repair that only takes place when you're resting. Because during the day, you're using your heart. The heart is pumping throughout the day 24/7 to make sure it gives you the right amount of blood, depending on what activities you may be doing at any given time. But at night time, it goes into that repair mode where it's actually taking in a lot of the nutrients, taking in a lot of the vitamins, taking a lot of the minerals that have been made available to hopefully from your diet that it can start to use to repair itself. And this is why I always stress to people to get the right amount of sleep, but not just the right amount of sleep, but the right time to sleep. Because there's a time for sleeping, and if you're sleeping at that right time, you'll be so surprised at what you're able to achieve. If you sleep at the wrong time, you'll be so surprised at how you're able to damage your body. I told you earlier about the gentleman who had very, very serious nervous disorders, swaying and not being able to speak properly because his brain was starting to sustain damage to the neurons because he wasn't giving it sufficient time to recover through rest. So just by having the right amount of sleep, he was able to reverse and bring a lot of things back into order. So just talking about the time you should go to bed, when your body's working to order, for those of you that are going to bed at 12 and 1 o'clock, let me tell you how the body should be working when you're working to order for optimal health. 9 o'clock, you'll find that your body releases a thing called serotonin. It's like a hormone called serotonin, which will then trigger the brain to convert it to melatonin, which will then become the body's natural it's like the body's natural anesthetic, which will start to shut down the brain. So what you'll find at about 10 o'clock, you'll find your eyes will start to go really red and your head will start becoming heavy, start to nodding off because that's the natural time for your body to go into what they call the repair mode. That's the repairman. So 10 o'clock, eyes start to go red because the blood wants to start rushing to the brain so it can start to repair the most important organ in the body. Absolutely, the brain. So 10 o'clock, you should be in your bed by then. The eyes will close. As I said, the glue comes in, it keeps the eyes closed, and it starts that repair. It starts working on the brain, it starts working on the eyes, starts working on the nose, starts working on the throat, it starts going down to the heart. So by about between 1 and 2, it starts getting down to the kidney. So if you find that you're waking up between 2 and 3, that's because you've got weakness in your kidney or you've got weakness in your bladder. And we find a lot of people who are waking up between 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning is because their bladder is very weak. So that process of the body restoring and regenerating itself and trying to restore everything back to order is interrupted because their bladder is weak. The reason why their bladder is weak is not because they drank late at night, it's because they haven't drunk enough during the day. So we get people to do what we call a hydrotherapy program, where we really get to increase the hydration throughout their lifestyle change journey. We effectively take their bladder to the gym by increasing the levels of water that they take in on a daily basis. So the bladder will open, the muscles will close, the bladder will open, they'll close. And that really strengthens those bladder muscles and increases their capacity to hold fluid. So once you've increased their capacity, you'll find when you go to bed and your body gets down to that part of the healing process when it's working on the kidney, working on the bladder and taking all the impurities out of the blood and putting it into the bladder is able to hold the urine. How does it do that? Because we've taken the muscles to the gym. People often get quite shocked. They're thinking, how can I drink more water during the day, but it ends up with me waking up less in the night? They can never really correlate the two because it just doesn't seem to correlate with logic, because people assume that you're waking up in the night because you're drinking at night, when in reality, you're waking up in the night because you haven't drunk enough during the day. So if you take nothing away from today, take away that if you're having or you're experiencing nocturia, as they call it, nighttime urination, then you need to look at your levels of hydration. you may also look at how you can start to increase your hydration to make sure you can strengthen those bladder muscles. Okay, so that's that. Let's move on. Aneta, yes, sleep deprivation, one of my major challenges. How do I combat this? Sleep deprivation is one of my major challenges. How do I combat this? Now, I want to try and keep this really short because of time. I want to get through as many as we can. But combating sleep deprivation firstly starts with you having an intention to sleep more or sleep longer. Sleeping longer starts with you sleeping earlier. I mean, intentionally saying, I'm going to be in my bed by 9 o'clock. Like, hey, like 9 o'clock, wow, I'm just getting from work. Okay, don't panic. There's things you can do. If you already go to bed at 12:01, what we generally say to do is to start off by going to bed 15 minutes earlier each night. If you go to bed at 1 o'clock, say tonight, I'm going to go to bed at 12:45. Tomorrow, 12:30. The next day, 12:15. The next day, 12 o'clock. The next day, 11:45. Next day, 11:30. Within 7 days, you'd have accumulated another 90 minutes worth of rest. Just having another 90 minutes of rest is going to have a significant impact on your levels of repair, your levels of rejuvenation, and your levels of wellness. And how you will notice this is when you wake up the following morning, you'll feel more energetic, you'll feel it more easier for you to rise, and you'll feel more alert a lot quicker because you haven't got to take so long for your brain to kick in, and you may not also have to take some caffeine or some kind of stimulant to get your brain into gear. So there's lots of ways you will notice the impact of just increasing your sleep by 90 minutes. And again, you continue. You know, the next day you get to go to bed at 11:15, and you do it until you get to the right time of at least 10 o'clock. I know some people, because of work, etc. Another thing you can do to address your sleep deprivation is to reduce your levels of stimulation at night. If you're a person that has a mobile phone and you tend to look at your mobile phone at night or your tablet at night, don't do that because it really affects your hypothalamus. Your hypothalamus controls what it's called your circadian rhythm, which is like your sleep-awake cycle. When you expose the hypothalamus in the brain to light, it believes that it's daytime. So it will start to stimulate the body to get ready for action and activity. When it starts to see that the lights are going dimmer, there's less light, and until no light, it will know that it's nighttime and it will start to shut down the brain and start to shut down the organs and go into that repair mode. So making sure you have a low level of exposure to light or low level of lighting in your room or in the evening is going to help you to get into that sleep mode a lot quicker. And another thing you can do, if those of you are waking up in the night and you find it hard to get back to sleep, I know somebody asked this question last week, but it's one thing I wanted to add, that if you do have to go to the bathroom in the night, try not to turn on the light in the bathroom. If you can, and you have natural light in the bathroom, try and go to the bathroom in the dark. I'm sure you know what you're doing when you go there, because that, again, is going to prevent your hypothalamus from being exposed to light. Because when you have that bright light, it's going to tell your brain that it's daytime, and it's going to take you a lot longer for you to readjust to the dark and getting back into night and sleep mode. So just you having exposure to light is going to have a significant effect on your ability to get back to sleep. So try to go to the bathroom in the dark, which will help you to get back to sleep a lot quicker and a lot easier. Okay, hopefully I answered that question for you, Aneta. I'm going to try and go back to grab some more questions. Okay. I find I'm worse if I don't get enough sleep. Yep, Sherry says she finds it's worse. Yep, you are very, very, very right, because the less sleep you have is the more damage you do to your body, the less able you are to face the issues of the day and the duties of the day. Okay, going to come up a bit further up. This is educative. Not taking any kind of meals. Oh, no meds. Another thing you want to do is make sure you try not to eat late at night as well. Because if you eat late at night, like within an hour or 2 hours before you go to bed, that's also going to have an impact on your ability to sleep. So by making sure you eat your last meal a lot earlier, that allows your digestive systems to break down the food and not have to interfere with your body's ability to get into a deep restorative sleep mode. Okay, I know if I don't get that, triggers palpitations. Okay. Shirley says, I've been informed it can take at least 6 months for the gut to get back to normal for the gut. Yes, if you have a compromised gut, like a leaky gut or a gut that has been exposed to a lot of pesticides, been exposed to a lot of processed food, or been subject to a lot of damage, you may have experienced IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, or inflammatory bowel syndrome. Once that gut has been compromised and you start to work on repairing it, yes, it can take up to at least 6 months for it to be fully repaired and operating at a decent level of wellness. Because remember, your gut is being used every single day, to ingest food, to process food, to digest food, and to eliminate waste. So the fact you're using on a regular basis, it means it's going to be more susceptible to damage while you're actually trying to repair it. So the more you focus on working on your gut for a continuous period of time, is the easier you'll find it is for it to come back into range. Okay, and I really appreciate you firing these questions, because as much as it may be, a few people asking different questions, these questions are going to really be beneficial to a lot of people when they get to hear the answers. Question says, how does one replenish the bad bacteria, or what should be used instead of these antibiotics? Let's take the second question first. What do you use instead of antibiotics? You can use natural antibiotics, things like garlic. Garlic is nature's antibiotic. It's a very, very powerful compound for helping to fight off bacteria or fight off infections. They have a compound in it called allicin. Allicin really helps to attack bacteria, and there have been lots of studies that have been done that shows the effectiveness of allicin against many different types of staphylococcus, streptococcus bacteria, E. coli, etc. They've been really, really effective at being able to break down these bacteria and bring them into order. So you can use garlic, you can use things like andrographis. Andrographis is another very powerful bitter, has a thing called andrographolides, which is another very powerful compound that's antibiotic, it's anti-parasitic, so it helps to kill off parasites. It's antiviral as well, so it's been very effective against various viruses. I think when they had the 1918 flu, it was one of the major bitters that was able to bring that flu under control. So andrographis, cloves as well. Cloves is very good for fighting bacteria. There's lots of natural cooked foods and herbs and extracts that you can use in the place of antibiotics. I mean, sometimes if you have a really bad infection, you really need to use antibiotics. It's got to be seen to be being in line with convention. But yes, if you have to use antibiotics, you have an infection, but try to use the natural things first that are only going to target the bad bacteria and are not going to offset your body's natural flora of good bacteria as well as the bad. So the first part of the question is, how does one replenish those bad bacteria if they have actually been damaged or compromised? Well, the first thing we're going to do, obviously, is look at probiotics, because probiotics is the first port of call to make sure you get a high level of microbes into your gut in the shortest possible time. Because when you have that bacteria imbalance, you want to get it balanced as quick as possible so that you don't start to get those bad bacteria replicated and multiplying at such a rate that they then become the majority of the microbes. And you'll notice when you have high levels of bad bacteria in your gut, it can lead to a wealth of different problems. You can have things like bloating, you can have things like indigestion, you can have things like skin rashes. There's so many things that could develop when you have high levels of staphylococcus or streptococcus. These are all bacteria that contribute to having eczema and having psoriasis and different maladies that will all be born out of you having these high levels of bad bacteria in your gut. And when they start to respirate, they start to produce toxins that will then trigger inflammation. So when you have high levels of inflammation, that could lead to a really, really, really wide range of different diseases, including cardiovascular disease, heart attack, and so on. So just from having the right levels of microbes or right levels of bacteria in your gut, you can offset a lot of these things from happening and prevent them by making sure you have a good balance of bacteria. The first port of call for that would be obviously starting with probiotics. Then you want to start to support your probiotics with some prebiotics, which are the foods that the probiotics will feed on to help them to proliferate in the gut more effectively. So you've got things like kimchi, you've got things like sauerkraut. These are fermented foods that really help to feed that microbiome, that microbiota in the gut, and helps those bacteria to get the right nutrients that they need to reproduce themselves, and then they can go and fight off some of those not so good bacteria. Okay, so I think we've just about reached the 60-minute mark, so I'm going to have to close now just so we can keep the videos to no more than 1 hour. But I want to thank you once again for all those that have joined. I hope you found today's session useful. We are going to be doing it every single Thursday, so make sure you look out for the link. We will send out the link every week to make sure you have a new one, because each time we do it, it is going to be by a new link. If you are watching this, as I said, and you found the information useful, please remember to like and leave a comment in the comment section below. Also, remember to subscribe to our channel, Ask Juice Doctor, to make sure that anytime these videos do come up, and if you do miss them, you will get a notification that tells you there's some powerful information in your inbox waiting for you. So this has really been useful to me, because again, I've got to answer some very pressing questions. I'm so grateful for all of you that have taken the time to come and join us, but I am now going to charge you with the responsibility of sharing this video far and wide once you get the YouTube link. So thank you so much once again, and I'll look forward to seeing you all next week, where we do it all over again.
In a world where well-being takes center stage, we introduce a luminary figure and true pioneer in natural health and wellness, who has transformed countless lives with his natural health expertise and holistic approach. Introducing Aaron Warden, also known as the Juice Doctor. The Juice Doctor is an award-winning clinical nutritionist, natural health researcher, detox specialist, and functional health practitioner. He's a trailblazer, an innovator, and the producer of botanical health products. You may recognize him as the star of Channel 4 and Sky TV's Supersized Kids, where Aaron took a 26-stone teenager on an emotional roller coaster to transform his life and ultimately his weight. As a social entrepreneur, humanitarian, CEO, and founder of Vivo Nutrients, Go Detox, and MI Healthcare Group, the Juice Doctor is committed to providing natural health solutions that produce real results. His mission is simple: freedom through well-being. Join us for an extraordinary and insightful well-being experience as the Juice Doctor takes us through the award-winning wellness blueprint that has successfully helped thousands achieve natural weight loss, increased energy, amazing mental clarity, glowing skin, and overcome major health challenges without medication, bad diets, or stepping into a gym. The Juice Doctor's approach to wellness is revolutionary and cuts through uncertainty by thoroughly examining all aspects of your health and lifestyle. Once the root cause is identified, nature's finest organic ingredients are employed to create an inner environment conducive to accelerated well-being from within. Don't miss this life-changing opportunity to transform your life and inspire a new perspective on health. Bring your health-related questions and get organic recommendations and enhanced food-based solutions that will supercharge your health like never before. Book in for a non-invasive scan and consultation today and get ready for a transformative experience that will exceed your expectations. Your journey to holistic optimal wellness starts today. Make sure to follow the Juice Doctor on Instagram at ask.juicedoctor and on YouTube at Ask Juice Doctor.
So you want great health, optimum vitality. With health being a global priority and inflation skyrocketing, time and money matter more than ever. So start working smarter, not harder. Introducing OxyFlush by My Healthcare Group. Natural health solutions that provide real results. You see, great health begins in the gut. In fact, the father of modern medicine, Hippocrates, said all disease begins in the gut. Over 70% of your immune system is also in the gut, so it's critically important to keep this area in optimal condition. OxyFlush helps quickly remove accumulated waste and associated toxins from clogging up the colon and preventing proper absorption of nutrients beneficial to your health. The impact is felt body-wide as immune cells are freed up to attend to other areas in need of attention. So, working smarter couldn't be easier. Clean your colon. Lose weight and show off the healthier you. Powered by My Healthcare Group, makers of Oxyflush.